Welcome to We All Serve, the podcast featuring leadership lessons from and conversations with those veterans that have served in the United States Armed Forces. Meet your host, Robert Lewis, a proud enlisted veteran that served active duty in the United States Marine Corps. Hoorah! And Shalom, Klein, who is privileged to be an officer in the United States Army Reserve. Hoorah! They both agree, we all serve.
Well, welcome back to yet another podcast. I'm your host, Robert Lewis, along with my co-host here, Shalom, Klein, my brother. And what an exciting episode we have for you guys today. It's very special. Wouldn't you agree, Shalom?
Very, very, very special. This is quite a treat. We've only, I can't believe, only been doing this for a couple of weeks, and we have had the all-star cast, I would say. The all-star cast, the best and the brightest, and really folks that have some great lessons to share. That's what this is all about, and the feedback has been amazing, so that is a shameless plug for if you have heard an episode and there's something that has resonated, let us know, get in touch with us. We're both on LinkedIn. That's probably the best way. Shoot us a message. Let us know what resonated. I know we've had some great conversations with some of our followers and subscribers about the conversations we've had with Linda Chapalavia, with Paul Knudsen, Jen Garrett. Just it's some amazing conversations, and today I think is going to inspire some great conversation. So by the way, if you are not yet subscribed, make sure you do that. You can subscribe by searching for We All Serve on YouTube, Spotify, Google, Apple, Telegram, Pigeon Carrier. Pretty much you can find everywhere. We All Serve anywhere.
Absolutely. And how's your week, man? I'll tell you, man, my week's been great. I feel like I got a lot accomplished. I think we're somewhere around 25 guests that we have lined up to be on the show now. Wow. We started out like, hey, I think I'll ask this person, or I think I'll ask that person. Now it's a list. It's a true list, man. And we couldn't be more fortunate to have so many folks that serve and serve in the capacity that they do it so well. And to be honest, our guest today sets the bar for service, in my opinion. And, one of the things I like to talk about today too, Shalom, we had, I think yesterday, the first Navy African-American woman fighter pilot, the first known, and I will say the first. They say the first known, but the first. And Madeline Swiegel is her name, Lieutenant Madeline Swiegel. And that's so appropriate that just happened. And for our guest today, it kind of goes, hand in hand with being first at things and just setting the standard. You know what I mean?
It's amazing accomplishment. And I mean, we continue to hear these stories and new barriers being broken, and that's in a time, I have to say, Robert, it comes at an important time, in a time where unfortunately there's frankly a lot of bad news that's out there, whether it's family and friends that are struggling, either physical health, mental health, employment. Having a little bit of good news to cheer us up about another barrier being broken, I could use it. So good stuff, and congrats, Lieutenant.
Absolutely. So yes, congrats to Lieutenant Swiegel and her family. I mean, that's a milestone that changes legacies, honestly. And I think one other thing I wanted to say, man, is that you're my brother. I appreciate you, man. The fact that you are in the Army, I will kind of let that slide today. With our next guest.
I noticed we got through, we're now at about almost 5 minutes in, and so far there hasn't been too much of a dig at the Army, and I decided with that in mind, I decided to keep it quiet on the whole Marine stuff. So, we're doing good, and you know what, that's good, because I know how much you respect our guest, and so the truth is, between both of us, I mean, we kind of outnumber you yet again. So, I mean, I'm just going to leave it there. Just going to leave it there, and we're going to move on. But I know Erica has been a mentor and a friend to you, and it's just such, talking about that lineup of guests that we've had and have coming up. The truth is, there's a certain character trait of those that have served, where you want to continue giving and you want to continue inspiring and sharing, and certainly our guest today is no different. So great segue.
Absolutely, that was my brother, and it is my absolute honor and pleasure to say that our guest today hails from the great state of Ohio, and she comes from a great family of service-minded individuals. She is well known to have a passion for her fellow soldiers and veterans alike. She's a graduate of Hathaway Brown in Shaker Heights, Ohio, and she went on to attend and graduate from the United States Military Academy at West Point. Following her graduation from the United States Military Academy at West Point, our guest served as an active duty Army aviation officer. She was a platoon leader and an executive officer in the aviation battalion as a UH-60L Black Hawk helicopter pilot, and later as the assistant secretary of the general staff for all of the corps at Fort Hood and one of the Army's largest installations. Mrs. Jeffries Purdue was medically retired in 2003. Post her active duty military service and throughout her career, our guest has served in both the public and private sectors. She specialized in defense strategy and national security policy with assignments in Europe, Asia, and in the Middle East. In the corporate world, Jeffries joined Excelis, a global aerospace and defense corporation, as a corporate executive in June 2012, and was the Chief Inclusion and Diversity Officer for more than 10,000 Excelis employees worldwide. While there was a responsibility for all training, learning, and development relating to diversity, inclusion, and all things into the workplace, she also developed and led the Leveraging Military Leadership Program, the signature corporate philanthropy program at Excelis. In the government space, she was an associate with Booz Allen Hamilton, where she specialized in defense strategy and national security policy, supporting government clients both domestically and internationally. She then served as a White House Fellow from 2010 to 2011 during President Barack Obama's administration, and she worked at the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, better known as EPA. She later received an appointment to serve as the senior advisor to the EPA Chief Financial Officer. On June 16, 2015, she was announced as the Director Designate for the Illinois Department of Veterans Affairs by then Governor Bruce Rauner, and was confirmed on March 19, 2015 by the Illinois State Senate. She served the veterans of Illinois honorably for 3 years before accepting a key role in the private sector as Chief of Staff, Worldwide Global Services with Johnson & Johnson. In May of 2018, during a ceremony, November 2019, the Honorable Ryan D. McCarthy, Secretary of the Army, selected our guest to serve as New Jersey's new civilian aide to the Secretary of the Army. Our guest holds a Bachelor's of Science in Military Academy at West Point, a Master's of Arts in National Security Studies from the School of Foreign Service at Georgetown University, and an MBA from the Pamplin School of Business at Virginia Tech University. And with her demanding and thriving professional career, she credits her faith and the joy and strength in her life at home in New Jersey with her great hubby, Derek, and their 2 adorable daughters. So, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I humbly give you the Chief of Staff of Worldwide Global Services at Johnson & Johnson, my mentor, my dear friend, and my big sister, Mrs. Erica Jeffries Purdue.
Well, thank you. I thought we agreed you weren't going to read all that. Man,
Erica, he didn't read a word of it. It was all memorized.
Yes, it was all of it right here.
We need to do some jumping jacks or wake the audience up after that. I'm sure everybody's asleep now.
No. How are you today?
I am fantastic. How are you? How are you doing?
I'm doing very well now that you're our guest. As my brother Shalom knows, this has been the one that I've really been waiting on. Everyone else was great. Don't get me wrong. But I've been waiting on Mrs. Jeffries Purdue.
Well, thank you. I am honored to be here. I appreciate the invitation.
Absolutely. Well, Erica, one of the things that I want to get our audience right off the bat, I want them to know that you hail from Ohio. And although we met in Chicago, and I know you're a LeBron James fan, that's the only thing I don't really agree with you on. He's good, but Michael Jordan. I got to show everybody my T-shirt right here. The Last Dance. We used to have our back and forth about this when Erica was IDVA's director. But no, seriously, Erica, I want to talk a little bit about your time growing up in Ohio. I want to know, what was it like as a child in Ohio with your family, and what did that experience do for you as a young girl?
I had a wonderful childhood. I grew up in Cleveland Heights, Ohio. I went to Hathaway Brown from 6th grade to 12th grade, and that school, honestly, I give it a lot of credit for shaping my character and my work ethic. Certainly, really, the credit goes to my mom and my grandmothers, who encouraged me to go to HB. I just have always really admired my mom and looked up to her. She was a single mom. And I had an older sister and a younger brother, and somehow she always had a hot breakfast on the table, always had dinner. She was at violin practice or track practice or, basketball games or whatever any of us were doing, and was also a businesswoman herself. So she just set the bar extremely high, and both of my grandmothers too. They were both educators. What's amazing is they were both college educated women, Black women. And my grandmother graduated college from the University of Cincinnati, like back in, I should know the exact year, but early 40s, 1940s.
Wow.
So it's really a legacy of education and strong women that I have had the privilege of growing up with. So I had a great childhood.
Wow.
And
Absolutely.
Erica, I know in everything that I've seen about you, you talk about how service has always been important in your family. Can you tell us in what ways your family has served?
Yeah, I never really thought about it growing up, but I actually do have a military family. I mean, my grandfather served, and my dad was in the Air Force for a short time, and my grandfather was in World War II, and my brother actually served in Iraq, and so we've had service for a number of years. And then, speaking about my mom again, she was never in the military, but she worked for United Way for a number of years, and so we were always doing some kind of community service. So it wasn't necessarily military service, but we were in the community. I want to instill it in my children too. We were delivering turkeys at Thanksgiving, and Toys for Tots collections, and we were doing all kinds of things to support different organizations across the Cleveland metro area when I was growing up. So we were brought up with the spirit of service, and we were very active in our church, St. Mark's Presbyterian Church. Just giving a shout out to my home church family in Shaker, Ohio, now Beechwood, Ohio, and we were just always in the community and serving. So it was just a part of who we are, part of our DNA.
Well, it certainly affected who you are, and we say this quite literally on every show, that the reason this show is called "We All Serve" is not about what branch you serve in. Mm-hmm. Although I know, Erica, you and I agree which branch is the best. But it doesn't matter what branch you serve in, or whether you even put on the military uniform at all. Bottom line, service and service, and it is about giving. And clearly, I know that for all three of us, There's a reason we have committed our lives to service because of those that have come before us. So obviously, thank you to your parents for instilling that in all of you. And obviously, I know your two beautiful daughters are going to no doubt follow in your footsteps.
I hope so, especially on the service front, for sure.
They got no choice. Mama's got it. So they got no choice. So Eric, you had obviously, I know you were a standout student. We've talked, from the time you were in grade school to high school. And so it kind of makes sense to me that you ended up at West Point. But can you tell our listeners or viewers, how that path was open for you?
HB, so Hathaway Brown is a private all-girls school in Shaker Heights. And I tell you, I have had the pleasure of serving on what's called the Heads Council for a number of years, which is to support the headmaster really in an advisory sort of position. And it's a whole council of alums that have graduated from the school from all different generations. And the school was founded in 1876. So it's always been an all women's school. And it just really instilled, number one, the power of the female. And we talk about girl power today, but in the 80s and early 90s, we were all about girl power at HB. And really, because there are no boys around, you were totally focused on your education and on sports and on your leadership within school. And so I was, I'd like to tell you I was a standout student. I was a good student, but I was not the top of my class. There were some extremely smart girls in my class. Mm-hmm. And that is kind of what motivated me. They really pushed me to try to be my best self. I never made it to the top of the class, but the highest honor really I won't say it's the highest honor in my life, but certainly one of the highest honors in my life came when I was graduating from HB, and they named me the HB Honor Girl, which is an award that is not just about your scholastic achievement, but it's about your well-roundedness, how well you serve in your community and how well you do in your grades, but also how well you get along with your classmates and your leadership. So I was the school president, I guess the Senate president is what we call it. So president of the high school. And I was named HB Honor Girl, which was a huge deal for me because I was on a scholarship. And I think I had a 90% scholarship, and my mom did not finish paying that 10% until I was a junior in college. And that is how much she sacrificed for me to be able to go to that school. So it really laid the groundwork for my scholastic motivation and wanting to be my best self.
And I'm sure your faith as well. As a young lady, it probably instilled even more faith. That if you apply yourself, the path will open up in front of you. All you have to do is walk,
Absolutely. I will tell you, this little girl, I've been in church, like was born in the church and went to the same church that my mom went to. And in fact, there's a woman by the name of Evelyn Davis, and she was my mom's Sunday school teacher, my Sunday school teacher. She had my girls every now and then when we would come to Cleveland.
Wow.
And she just turned 99 in May. And she's still wearing her high heels, and she's amazing. And that faith walk has been part of my life from day one, and it's definitely guided me my entire life, for sure.
Absolutely.
Wow.
I could stay on this topic all day, by the way, brother. So I'm gonna let you say.
So you were the Senate president in school. You go to West Point. You make your way into the Army as a Black Hawk helicopter pilot. So I have to ask, from having a number of my buddies that have gone and become Black Hawk pilots as well. What was that like for you? What was that experience for you as a woman of color, fighter pilot? Tell us about that experience, the people that you trained with and the people that you served with.
It was awesome. And I will make a quick correction. So I was not a fighter pilot. Blackhawks are utility helicopters. So we're not fighter helicopters, but we do have M60 machine guns that hang out either side of the window. But the Blackhawk airframe is so cool. And part of why I chose it is because it does troop movement. It does medevac. It does all kinds of different things with the sling loads, and we put out fires with our Blackhawks. I mean, we did all kinds of stuff. So it's actually more versatile than an attack pilot. You know, they're kind of narrow in their focus, and we did all kinds of stuff. So, you know, I served with amazing people. I loved the Army, and it was not all, you know, sunshine and roses by any stretch of the imagination, for sure. As a Black woman, at that time, there were 18 Black female pilots in the Army. And I have no idea what that number is today. I know it is infinitely higher. As a matter of fact, I know a number of young Black women who are flying right now. Natalia Drew, give a shout out to her, and Ashley Johnson, give a shout out to her. So just really proud of all these young Black women that are coming behind me, and women in general that are flying and doing what they do. And it was, again, another opportunity to stay motivated when you're the only, for like as far as you can see, you definitely don't want to stand out for being the worst at this or the last at that. And so that has always been something that really pushed me to work twice as hard. And not that I was twice as good, but to be as good as my counterparts, because it was tough. It was tough. It was fun.
And that's a typo on my fault, my brother there with the fighter pilot there.
And I was so excited about the story that you shared, Robert. I mean, I know we're all following of that of the first female of color in the Navy, which is just incredible. So
it is.
Listen, amazing news.
How old was she? When did she fly? I want to know, because I happen to know a female Navy fighter pilot, and she's from the 80s, and so I don't know.
That's a good question, because it says known on the article, Military Times, actually. Shout out militarytimes.com. But I will look that up and I'll get back to you.
Look up Matisse Wright. She is a Naval Academy grad, and she was she an F-16 pilot, F-18 pilot? She was a Navy fighter pilot.
Wow.
And her picture hangs in the Pentagon, or it did anyway, at a time. And I believe she was the first Black female Navy fighter pilot.
And what did I tell you, brother, that Erica was she would know before it hit the press?
Of course.
I don't know for sure, but you can call her up. She'll come on your show too. She'll say,
absolutely. That would be phenomenal. So we've got the allegedly the first Black female Navy pilot in Madeline Swiegel, and possibly
taking nothing away from her, because I know she is an amazing woman.
Oh, absolutely.
Lieutenant Swiegel, is that what her name was? Swiegel?
Madeline Swiegel. Shout out Lieutenant Madeline Swiegel. We know that you're breaking ground and setting a new standard with what you're doing. So that's definitely no shade. We're just getting it corrected. That's it. But one of the things that I just want to tell a quick story there, all our listeners, it was a time, and I don't know if Erica remembers this, but when I was working for Erica at IDVA, we had a project going on. We were trying to build something in the hallway. We had a limited amount of tools, and we were kind of doing it near our guest office door. I don't know if you remember this, but we had a cardboard and we pulled it out, and we were trying to figure out how can we use this for more than one thing. And Erica came to her office and said, "You guys having a problem?" We're like, "Well, we're just trying to figure this out." And Erica kicked it real quick and split it in half, and we had the two boards. So I just wanted to share that story, because Erica, she's a wonderful, a beautiful person inside and out, but she's tough as nails. I just had to share that, Erica. Don't let it fool you now. Just because she's nice and she sounds great, she's tough. But on to my next story. So my next question, actually, I'm just so thankful that I landed at IDVA when I did, to have the opportunity to meet you, Erica. And I just want to know, as the director of IDVA, now that is in the rearview mirror for you, How do you view your experience there as director?
I would say, first of all, I am also glad that you came to IDVA at the time that you did, and that our paths had the chance to cross, and now that we continue on the journey together. So I am very, very thankful for that. And
Thank
for so many of the people that we worked with, I'm telling you, we had an amazing, amazing team there. And
Yep.
when I look back on that time, I just, honestly, it was some of the hardest years of my professional career, but for sure the best. I mean, I loved our team. I love the work that we do. I love the mission that we have. And we had some unprecedented times while I was there. And we had some real political struggles while I was there. And it tested my leadership. It tested my personal fortitude and my strength and my energy. And it tested me in every way imaginable. But I think about it often because it reminds me of what I'm made of. You know, it was like you surround yourself with the right people and you give them, you know, empower them to be their best selves, then your job is really easy. And so thankfully I had an amazing team. I'm going to shout out Harry Sawyer, who is my assistant director. And I won't go down the line because there's too many people to name and they'll be mad if I forget them. So just know that I love every single person that we worked with at IDVA. I love those years. And I miss those years, believe it or not. I do miss those years. As hard as some of that was, it was like iron sharpens iron, or, you know, where you get stronger in the fire. It was definitely a time of test and a test of strength and character and will. And I don't know if I passed every test, but I certainly came out much stronger and much better for it, for sure.
You passed. I just got to let you know. I don't know how, but I do know who. And that's
Amen.
why you passed.
That's right. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Erica, your journey continues. I know the story is continuing to be written, but you moved on from Illinois. You now are out in New Jersey as the chief of staff globally for Johnson & Johnson. In normal times, that means that I imagine you're on the road quite a bit, visiting different cities, countries, massive amount of oversight responsibilities. I know that we were talking before we went live that Zoom is sort of your life right now in this era of COVID, but we'll get back to the way things were. But can you tell us about your decision to take your talents there and first couple of years at Johnson & Johnson, and what really you want to accomplish professionally in the future?
I love how you said take my talents to Johnson & Johnson. I caught that reference. I like that. I like that. You know, I have been so tremendously blessed in my life, and a door was open to me at Johnson & Johnson. I had the great opportunity to meet our CEO, Alex Gorski, who is a fellow West Point graduate. And he said to me, actually it was in 2016, I met him, and he said, you should think about Johnson & Johnson. And I had only just recently been at IDVA, and I was like, well, it's not really the right time. I certainly am loving my role. And as the years went by, I continued to think about it. And the reason I am at Johnson & Johnson, there's a number of reasons, but the biggest reason is because when I went to interview, I was overwhelmed by what we have as our our moral compass at J&J. It is called our credo, and it is the grounding that we follow. So it's a 4-paragraph document, and it is literally carved in stone in a huge granite wall when you enter the world headquarters. And it's in every single headquarters around the world, every single office, and in many conference rooms and within those offices as well. It's everywhere. In fact, most of the people that I interviewed with had it in a frame on their desks. And it's not just words on paper or words carved in stone. It's literally the way they guide the way they do business. So the first paragraph says that we put our patients, doctors, and nurses first, and it's really about our commitment to the patients and doctors and nurses that we serve with our products, and in both consumer and pharmaceutical and medical devices. And the second paragraph is about our employees, how Johnson & Johnson is committed to paying a fair wage and taking care of their employees and really looking after careers and giving talent and development opportunity. And the third paragraph is how we serve our community, how we think about what's greater than J&J, what is our reach, and how can we, as we say at J&J, how can we use our big for good? And there are so many examples I can give of the good that this company is doing around the world, not to mention being a front leader in finding a vaccine and creating a vaccine for the coronavirus. And then the last paragraph is about our shareholders and ensuring that they, get a good return on their investment in our company. And it's last for a reason. And so I could go on and on and on about our credo. It's amazing. You probably think it's amazing that I know what each of the paragraphs is, but the reality is it's not just the talk that they talk. It is truly the walk that they walk, and that I now get to walk. I'm overwhelmed by just the amazing work that this company does, and I have such a teeny tiny part of it. And I'm just proud to be part of an organization that is literally helping to save the world right now.
Wow. I'm not surprised that you know that. I wouldn't be surprised if you didn't have the handbook memorized. I wouldn't be surprised, because that's just how Erica is. When she
called me a nerd, Shalom. Is he saying I'm nerdy?
I think he kind of is. I think he kind of is. I think he thinks anybody that's that hasn't served in the Marines. I think he thinks that we're all just nerds or something.
That's okay.
You know what? That's 2 cheap shots in a row from you, brother. I got you.
No, I know you're gonna get me back on the next episode. We're gonna spend 5 minutes.
Yes, we're gonna do 10 minutes of banner, nothing but talking about the Army. So. No, that is not surprising to me. And also, Erica, you say you have a tiny bit to do with it, but in a culture that believes as strongly as they do in those morals, and they have those as their standard, you fit in there, and you are the missing piece, and that's why you're there. Because in order for things to go the way they're supposed to go, it has a way of finding what it needs. And when I say it, whatever it is, and you're the person that needed to fit there. So your role is years to come from your impact. You'll see that in years.
You know what? You've been a prophet my whole time knowing you. So I will just take that as prophecy and say, thank you, sir. I hope that is.
Thank you, sister.
I received it.
I received that. So you know what? I've had the opportunity to meet Derek, or as you call him, D. And I haven't had the opportunity to meet the beautiful girls that you guys have. But I have to ask you, with all of the success you have, with managing your world travels, with the Zoom calls now and COVID-19 and all the responsibilities that you have, how do you manage motherhood and keeping marriage good with D? How does that work?
It has been a challenge, honestly, because we've never lived near our family. So in Chicago, we didn't have any family there. Now we're in New Jersey. We don't have any family here. And so I honestly thank God every day that I have a supportive caregiver and in our nanny, and she continues to come even in this environment. We have an agreement that she literally goes from our house to her house and back, and we really try to protect ourselves, but it enables us to be able to work. And I have an awesome husband. I mean, the Lord has blessed me with a tremendous gift in my husband, Derek, and he is more than just a husband. He's truly my partner. I mean, we say that all the time, like, my goodness, I could not do this. Like, we are tired together, let alone being on our own. And he is a tremendous, wonderful, supportive partner. In fact, I will tell you, he's away from home right now. And my daughter said, Mama, last night when I was putting her to bed, she said, Mama, how are you going to eat dinner? And I said, well, I'll just eat dinner by myself. And she was like, but Daddy's not here. Who's going to make you some dinner? And I was like, like, Mama knows how to cook. Just because Daddy cooks all the time doesn't mean Mama doesn't know how to cook. So right. He truly is an awesome partner, and we take time for ourselves. Thanks again to our wonderful nanny. We're able to a couple times a year, we'll go on a little vacation. I'll tell you, when the two of us go together, it's a vacation. When the four of us go together, it's a trip. There's a difference. We don't go on vacation with the kids. It's a
Absolutely.
trip. But it's awesome. We are so tremendously blessed. Our love, our marriage, our kids. We have really good girls. I mean, I keep looking over here because I got them on camera right now. And the oldest she'll tell you she's 3 3/4, and she is entertaining herself, reading books in her room. The other one is sleeping soundly, and they just are angels, and angels. Yeah. But they're my greatest gifts and the joy of my life.
I would say too that shout out to my wife, because just like Derek is to you, Erica, I couldn't do what I do. We couldn't do what I do, myself and Marissa, without each other's support. I know that my brother Shalom, him and his wife feel the same way. It really speaks to what you can accomplish in your life based upon who your partner is.
Amen.
If you don't have the right partner, it will stop or it'll derail you on the path that you're on. And and I met Derek. He's such a cool cat. I got to say that. And I know he's got your back. And so I'm thankful for that as well. Yeah. So awesome.
Erica, over the past half hour or so, we've talked a lot about your time serving in the Army. We've talked about your time at IDVA, your time at Johnson & Johnson. We just talked about your family. I'm curious, how did your service, your military service, impact everything else in your life? Your time at IDVA, who you are as a person. What leadership lessons have you learned from? And what advice would you give to somebody that might be enlisting next month?
I would say I learned that leadership is really established through followership. You may have the authority placed on your shoulder with your rank, but certainly being able to listen and being able to have discernment and to have good judgment is critical to success as a leader. And I would say to somebody who is enlisting is to spend more time listening than you do talking, because there's so much to learn from the leaders around you in good ways and in the ways that you want not to lead as well. I'm not saying that every military leader is a fantastic leader, because certainly they are not. No leader, in any organization, you'll find some leaders that are not the greatest, but you can still learn from those people if you look and listen and take note of what you hope to be, or remind yourself of what you hope not to be, and to keep yourself in check. And I do everything I do is really with the overarching mindset of servant leadership. We could all talk a long time about our faith, I'm sure, and I don't have to go there for you to know that I am certainly a woman of faith. And I will say, if I follow the way of and the example of my Lord and Savior, then it is to be a servant in order to be a leader. And so that is really how I try to conduct myself, and try to always have humility. And and I should know the scripture, but there's a passage in the Bible that talks about how if you come to a wedding table, don't sit at the head of the table, because you will find yourself embarrassed if someone of more importance comes and the host has to ask you to move down to the bottom of the table. Always sit at the bottom of the table and let the host come and elevate you. And that is something that I always think about, that I try to remain humble in everything I do, because lest I be embarrassed and getting too full of myself. So I'm just fortunate and thankful for everything that I have and the opportunities that I've been given. And I just hope to continue to serve in every way that I can.
Wow. And thank you for sharing that knowledge and wisdom from your journey with our viewers and with our listeners. I think anyone who aspires to be of service in our community, or if they're in the military, you have to understand that if you're following a leader, they once followed someone as well, and they're still following someone. And the prayer is that they're following the right one, and that they understand what that will do for those who are following them.
Indeed.
So I am certainly, I feel blessed. I feel privileged. I feel honored. I feel all those great things for you being our guest today, Erica. And I don't have any more questions. I guess the last thing I will say, the NBA is halted right now. So, it's kind of crazy, but, did you see The Last Dance?
I did. I actually did watch The Last Dance. And I will go on record. I know this is being broadcast all around the world. YouTube will take this, everywhere. I will go on record as saying that Michael Jordan is the greatest to have played the game. But LeBron James is the greatest of all time. That's all I'm going to say.
I see where you're going. He's got the school in Ohio, right? And he's more of he's giving more of a humanitarian effort.
He gives back. He cares about his community, cares about where he came from, he cares about his teammates, and he's just a natural born leader. Michael Jordan nobody can dispute how incredible he was on the court. But it's more than on the court.
Thank you.
You're on and off the court. You're a whole human being. So LeBron James, I feel like can't really compare.
No, I can understand that argument. I just say to people who think that LeBron's the better basketball player, I'm like, come on. Jordan played in the 90s. It was a lot more physical then. You can't compare the two eras. But if you did, LeBron probably wouldn't be able to do what he does now because he'd get more fouls, he'd get pushed around a little bit more, that type of deal. But I agree with you. He is truly a philanthropist, and he absolutely gives back to the people 1,000%.
That's right. He does. So.
Wow, we actually agree on that.
Yeah, we do. There we go. Let's leave it at that. Well, we can, right?
Yeah, exactly. So no, this is great. Thank you again, Erica. I can't thank you enough. And I will follow up too on finding out if our first Black Navy pilot or fighter pilot was now or was it in the 80s. I'll find that and I'll tell you. I'm sure you'll probably know by the time I get back to you, though.
Thank you, Erica Jeffries, Purdue, for joining us on We All Serve. We've got a great lineup of guests coming up, so make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a single episode, a single conversation. But remember, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, we all serve. Can't wait to see you on the next episode.
We all serve.
I just want to thank you both very much, not only for having me on today and for inviting me here to tell my little story, but really thank you for what you're doing, because you are reminding our communities, our veterans, our service members that the service that they are doing every day, that it matters. And even if we've never put on the uniform, the service that you can be to your fellow man is now more important than ever. So I just thank you for raising this voice and for using this platform to really remind us that we have a responsibility to continue to serve. So thank you guys for what you're doing and for your leadership.
Thank you.
Thank you, Erica. That was sweet of you. Thank you. And go ahead, Shalom.
No, amazing. Appreciate that. And I just want to finish by saying, I think we said this a couple of episodes ago, that, the reason we started this, Erica, is there's so much negativity that's out there. There's some challenging parts of service. You saw it. You were on the front lines at IDVA and seeing some of the depression and PTSD and many challenges that service members come back with. What this show is all about is highlighting all the good, highlighting all the positive aspects that veterans bring back to their hometowns and to their communities, and the value of service. So thank you for recognizing that. Very much appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
We'll see everybody on the next episode. Once again, thank you, Erica, for joining us. We all serve.
Be safe and be well.
You too.